Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
Happy New Year, Sudeep.
A very happy New Year to you too, Sharan. Thank you very much.
We ended last year with an episode called The Marketing Side of Sales, Part 1. And we're on for Part 2 today. So I have this question. I've been asked this question a lot by the founders I speak to. They say, even if I manage my distribution, the retailers are not supporting me in driving offtake or driving sales at the point of at the stores. So my response has been, the retailer is not obligated to support you. And nobody, in fact, is obligated to support us in any manner. It's a business transaction. And we've got to figure a way out of it. That's the bad news. The good news is that you have a lot more control than you think you do at the point of sale. So let me start with a very basic question. The marketing side of sales is referred to by different names in different companies. So I want you to differentiate between what is trade marketing, customer marketing, shopper marketing, and also tell me what's the difference between the shopper and the consumer and the customer, if you can, in one go.
Okay, that's a fairly loaded question, as everybody must have guessed by now. And it's an important one because that holds the answer to how can you possibly use science to create some amount of success for the brand at the point of buying.
Right.
So let's start with how is the function termed or tasked in different companies. And I think that's where it starts becoming clearer. We have the task to make the brand come alive and to impact the offtake of a brand or a product at the point of sale.
Right.
And towards that end, you need somebody to really work specifically on that particular aspect. So a traditional consumer marketing team would try and influence the consumer by creating some kind of a mental association in their head, by doing some kind of a activity. That mental association would lead people to have some kind of an active or passive impression when they step into a store. But to translate that into realizable revenue, you need the purchase to happen. And for that purchase, companies, have created this function called trade marketing or customer marketing or shopper marketing. The traditional understanding of this function was that you need to cater to the trade or the customer. And both of them are the same thing. The retailer or the shopkeeper who is stocking your product, that is trade.
Okay.
And in a traditional definition, they are your customers. Anybody in the company would know there are internal customers and there are external customers. Your external customers are your trade partners, people whom you sell to, your dealers, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, etc. And so therefore, traditional approach to this creation of offtake at point of sale was that you need to cater to the trade or to the customer. And hence the function was called customer marketing or trade marketing.
Right.
And hence they would possibly look at classifying their trade or their customers in best ways possible. And hopefully if they've heard the last episode, they'll try and do it in the right manner by classifying them by the nature of people that are coming there or what is it meant to serve, rather than doing ABC or large, medium, small, etc. Over a period of time, Sharan, I think the understanding has evolved. And in the latest form, people have started realizing that each one of these trade partners is able to impact the sale only basis the kind of customers that are coming to them, the kind of consumers that are coming there.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where this definition of shopper comes in.
Okay.
Now, shopper is that particular person or entity who is stepping into your retail environment to make a purchase decision. So in a lot of the cases, the shopper might be same as consumer.
Right.
For categories that have on-the-go consumption, like a small bottle of cold drink, the shopper will essentially be same as the consumer.
Right.
For categories that have in-home consumption or that are bought as part of ration at the start of the month, there the shopper might be different from consumer. So the consumer of a Bonvita is the kid, while the shopper of Bonvita is his or her mom.
Right.
Yeah. And similarly for various other categories. So
Got
over a period of time, all companies realize that while you do whatever you do with the dealer or the trader, finally the person who is making the decision is the shopper. And hence it is the shopper you need to influence.
Got it.
Hence over a period of time, I think the right articulation of this particular function that has emerged is shopper marketing. And shopper marketing emerges from obviously first classifying your retail, because when you classify your retail, you define what is the shopping mission for the shopper who is stepping into that shop.
Perfect. Got it. So if I were to sum up these to say, a shopper is the person who's making the shopping decision, the purchase decision at the retail store or at the point of purchase.
Yeah.
Now, between customer and consumer, depending on the kind of business you're in, the terms tend to vary.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that, in FMCG, which is fast moving consumer goods where the products are consumed, the end user is called the consumer, and the customer that the business cater to is the trade partner, the channel, the retail store, the wholesaler, the distributor. All of them make up the customers. However, if you are in the business of, say, electronics, it's not a consumable. So the end buyer could be the shopper and the customer, but not necessarily a consumer in the pipeline. So these terms are interchangeably used, but the terms we're using today are largely FMCG centric because we're talking about consumables. So the consumer is the end user, and the customer is the trade partner, the retailer, the wholesaler. The shopper is the person actually making the purchase.
Yeah. So,
Right.
for example, in the categories that I work with now, we have products that are used by the contractors, which are then applied at the homes of people.
Right.
Now, in that sense, we call the consumer is still the consumer
Okay.
because their furniture is getting made.
Right.
So the Fevicol is getting consumed in their home. So we
Right.
are impacting the consumer like any other FMCG does. But our customer, apart from being the dealer, etc., are also these contractors.
Contractors, carpenters, all of them.
Yeah. And we refer to them sometimes as end users also.
In fact, technically, they are the last
They are
touch
the
point.
end users.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are our end users, while the ultimate consumption happens in the service of consumers.
Right. So in this case, Sudeep, who would be the shopper?
So for us, it depends on what is the kind of contract that has been taken by the contractor. If it is a labor plus material contract, then the contractor goes out and buys. If it's a labor only contract, then the consumer goes out and buys.
Perfect.
So the shopper might vary between two.
Right. The shopper could be the consumer. The shopper could be the end user. The shopper could be the customer, as we put it also.
Correct.
Perfect. I think this is as confusing as it can get for the listeners. So hopefully they have taken notes so far to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Now, I think the next possible question in everybody's mind, if I have to take the logical thread forward, is how to influence a shopper.
Right.
Yeah. There are lots of theories in sales about how to influence a trade partner. How should you do scheming? How do you do rate control? How do you increase your distribution? How do you manage your distribution? How to manage large dealers, etc., etc.
I have the answer to all of this.
Okay, which is?
If it's a customer, give them more and more margins.
Ah.
If it's the shopper, give them more and more discounts.
Nice. Correct. So that kind of rudimentary understanding will make sure that you always sell a commodity and not a brand.
Exactly the point.
So, well, coming back to the core question, how do we influence demand?
Right.
or conversion of demand into business at point of buying.
Right. So this actually is the first question, right? To say, I put my stock into the store, I've classified the stores, I put my stock in. Now, how do I get it to the customer? And the most common one being discounting. So keeping discounting out of the conversation. How do I convince the shopper to pick up my product?
Yeah. So whatever you do for the shopper or the consumer, when you call it discounting, scheming, etc., all of that is in service of serving some need that the consumer or shopper has. But you have only two methods of reaching the consumer or the shopper. The first method is product placement.
Right.
The second method is point of buying communication. It is important to understand that the consumer makes a decision when they are standing in, a consumer or shopper makes a decision when they're standing inside the store by going through certain stages.
Right.
Yeah. And this is again something that we learned when we were at Cadbury, which is called the 5S model.
Right.
So the 5S model went that the first stage was see, the second was scan, the third was spot, the fourth was show interest, and fifth was select.
You still remember all the five?
Yeah. I think again we went through the training and it was discussed so many times when we
Right.
were planning our brand placement or when we were planning our shopper journeys.
Right.
So therefore it gets ingrained in you.
Right.
Let's take an example first. Yeah, so that these stages are
Okay.
clear to all our listeners.
Okay.
Let's say you are out for a mission to buy a packet of chips.
Okay.
So you walk into the store and it's a self-service store.
Okay.
So you walk in and you try to find out where is the chips stocked. Yeah, where is that alley? So you walk down that alley and you find the place where it is stored. So the first thing that you do is you first try to find it. And when you
Right.
get to the right category, that is where the C stage is there. Yeah, you're seeing.
You're seeing the category.
You saw the
Right.
category. Then you stand in front of the category. There's significant amount of assortment there. You're going through the assortment to see what do you want.
Assortment meaning the variety of products in the
Variety
category.
of products, brands, flavors, colors, etc., etc.
Right.
So you're going through all of this, and when you're going through, that's the scan stage. Yeah. See, scan, spot. Then usually when you're going through, you will suddenly stop at a place when you notice something. And this noticing could be either you've spotted what you wanted or
Something
there
very
is
interesting.
something very interesting. Something has caught your fancy.
Right.
So that's the third stage, which is spot. The next is if you've spotted something, you could stop at it and then you can continue, or you
Right.
would pick it up.
Right.
Yeah, to possibly see what is inside it, or you would like to see
Back of pack.
behind what are the ingredients, etc. That is called show interest.
Right.
And if after you pick it up you keep it back, then you go back to the scan stage and the scan stage continues.
Right.
But if you keep it in your shopping bag, that means you have selected the product, and therefore all 5 stages are complete.
Right.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharvana Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBCAST.net.
Now, in a modern trade store or a self-service store, it always pays to stand near your category and see what is the kind of conversions you have at each of those 5 stages when a consumer is coming to your category aisle.
Right. So is all of this influenceable by a brand? Because if, let's say, I'm the guy selling chips, I've got a chips brand, and it's a supermarket. When the customer comes into the supermarket, I don't decide where the chips category is placed inside the store.
Yeah.
So what are the elements I can control to address each of these 5 stages?
So again, let's talk about, as I said, there are 2 ways of controlling things. The first is to control placement. So let's talk about placement first.
Right.
So from a placement point of view, if you're a new brand, you can of course influence the placement. Yeah. A lot of the times you would have seen that there are floor stacks
Hmm.
and end caps that brands buy when they have a new launch or they are activating something,
Right.
so that consumer finds them without much effort.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where you immediately make sure that C scan spot is happening very quickly for the consumer.
Right.
So
In
that's
that
one way.
case, the C jumps straight to spot because that's what you're putting in front of the customer. You don't
Correct.
shop. You don't have. They don't. You don't want them to go through the other brands to find you, but you're paying to be visible to the shopper first up.
Correct.
Perfect.
Another thing that one must notice is that none of the supermarkets or none of the stores want the C to be very difficult.
Hmm.
Because if the C is difficult, the shoppers will not return. So
Exactly.
therefore, you will see they would have put markers, and there is significant amount of science that goes into arranging a supermarket, and the categories which are so essential that they know that people will find the signs and come there are always kept in the back so that the consumers goes through all the aisles.
Right.
Yeah. So therefore, leave some of this expertise to the store.
Retailers. Hmm.
Yeah, retailers, they would have done their job there. But in
Right.
a self-service store, if you really want to jump from directly from C to scan to maybe a spot, you buy the visibility upfront. So therefore, while you can influence the C by controlling where you place your product or your new launch, uh, the store would also aid.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how C is controlled.
Okay.
Now you get to scan.
Yes.
Right now, scan again is a function of what is the kind of variety and what is the kind of brand proliferation your category has.
The number of SKUs and the variants I carry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Number of SKUs, variants, sizes, flavors that you carry. Now,
Right.
within that scanning, you would want that all your variants and all your SKUs are present.
Right.
Otherwise, you get a very smaller share of scan than you deserve.
Off the shelf as a percentage of the
shelf.
shelf. That's
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
And therefore, lesser share of scan. And
Right.
hence, the assortment, placing the assortment
Hmm.
in a manner that all of it is visible and gets its rightful share in the category becomes very critical.
Right.
Yeah. The next is obviously spot. This now comes from your consumer understanding.
Hmm.
The better you understand your consumer or your shopper, that what is it that they look for when they are looking at a pack of chips. Yeah. That will determine how you design your pack.
Hmm.
Yeah. And how distinctive it looks from other packs within the same category.
Got it.
Once you're able to do that, you are actually helping consumer make better decisions. And therefore, you will possibly get a better score at spot if you've mastered this.
Right.
Yeah. A well-designed pack with sufficient distinctiveness will always score better in spot.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you are a new brand, what you want is you want people to notice you and say, what is this? This is interesting.
Right.
So you want to pique interest. So therefore, your packaging design should ideally do that.
You must stand out from rest of the crowd, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happens.
And give consumer a reason or the shopper a reason to pick you up.
Right.
Yeah. Then next is show interest, where the consumer picks you up. Right. Now, from a picks you up point of view, the consumer picks you up if they find you interesting enough. If they find there are some levers that are mentioned on the pack which prompts them to pick it up and look for more.
And that varies by category.
Varies by category. But think about that when you're designing your packs. Number two, you should also know what your consumers are looking for so that when they turn around the pack, they should be able to find it. Yeah. One of the more funny things that I have seen is that with different regulations, the software industry, the soft drink industry is required to print their MRPs in different manner. So from printing on the neck of on the cap, they went to printing on the bottle itself.
Right.
And I've seen customers or traders struggling to find where is the MRP on this thing. Yeah. But you should understand the shopper mission and the kind of things that they're wanting to buy, and hence you should possibly place it in a manner such that it is easy to decipher it. Yeah.
Right.
Nowadays there's a lot of noise about ethical marketing, so therefore a lot of the categories that possibly are dealing with sugar or salt, etc., have now have to respond to all those accusations by possibly declaring what is it that the consumer is consuming in a much more transparent manner. So this is the opportunity
Right.
to help the consumer.
So just to step this back a little, Sudeep, you're saying
Yeah.
price is what comes into play at the show interest level and the other declarations on the pack?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until then, so this is the point where price plays. So when people say discounting is the way, they're actually jumping straight to the show interest because it's the easy conversation to have. But there are these few steps
Actually, the
before
fact
that.
is that, yeah, you're right. There are many steps before that. But the fact is that if you are clear that in your category, a discounted product will drive trials. So therefore,
Then-
it is okay. And if you are at a stage where you want to drive trials, it is perfectly fine to start with discounting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then you know that the consumer has come to spot you after knowing that you're offering a discount. Yeah. So it is okay to create that predisposition in consumer's mind.
Got
Right.
it.
If you're announcing it upfront, and that's where communication comes in. If you've announced it on the pack, then it comes at stage 3 or stage 4, like we said.
Right.
But if you've announced it in above the line in your TV communication, or you've announced it at the front of the shop,
Right.
then the consumer has come scanning for you.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the power of communication. Where you place the communication also matters.
Right. We discussed this regarding Apple, right? Said
Correct.
we are not opposed to discounts. It's about how you communicate your discount.
Correct.
So Apple is never considered a discount brand. It's
Correct.
among the most premium of brands. And when Apple offers you discounts, they only tell you how affordable Apple is for you. They
Correct.
give you credit card discounts, and it's usually run by the reseller. It's on print, so it's a very targeted audience. And therefore, it's about giving you the right or the ability to own the Apple, which is a premium product, in an affordable way. So it's never becomes a discount brand. But if Apple ran a campaign saying, I am 20% cheaper than an HP computer, that would put Apple as a discount brand.
Correct. And now, interestingly, I quote this in multiple courses that I run. When you look at Apple advertising on TV, they will talk to you about one standout feature that their phone has.
Right.
Yeah, either it'll be color, it'll be connectivity, it'll be ease of use, something or the other. They'll pick one up and blow it out.
Right.
Yeah. However, when they communicate on print, they will talk about this affordability of Apple phone.
Right.
Yeah. And they're clear that they are creating consideration from TV.
Right.
And then they're translating that consideration into purchase by using this.
Right. Exactly.
So they know that your C-scan already is happening. You're showing interest because of what they showed on TV. Now it is time to convert it into select. And that's where they are mastering this game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So that's the communication side of it, right? So placement, and one of the principles that was taught to us as at that time, that in a category, when you're placing your product, the best place to occupy is the diamond in the middle of a category aisle.
Right.
Yeah. If you're in the diamond, you give yourself the best chance of being in that C-scan spot space for the consumer, and you increase your chances of conversion.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a demonstration of placement.
Right.
Yeah. And given your proclivity to repeatedly ask for examples on communication, we've already stated a couple of examples to start with.
Right.
Yeah. No. But a communication can help you jump stages.
Right.
Like we discussed.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, have you heard of this drink called Prime?
Yeah. The energy drink.
the energy drink, right?
Right.
Now, the craze about Prime has no logical reason to it.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just that it is backed by one very famous YouTuber. They have launched it,
Right.
right? So therefore, while the drink should ideally be stocked along with other energy drinks, yeah, but a lot of the stores will put up posters outside saying Prime available here, and it will be available separately from the category because they know people are going to come looking for it,
Right.
right? So the communication is very simply telling people that come, we have this here, and
Right.
then you don't need to do C scan spot.
Because they already
It is
showed
already
interest.
available. Yeah, it is already available for selection,
Right.
right? So
Got
a
it.
communication can do multiple things for you.
Hmm.
Now, a lot of the times, I'm not sure whether you've seen this kind of an activation, but it used to be very popular.
Hmm.
Whenever a new brand would get launched, they will plaster the floor of a supermarket with
Hmm.
markers which lead people to the category.
Right. I remember
Yeah.
this. I remember this especially for Tresemme launch by Unilever.
Yeah.
All over. That I think that was the biggest launch in personal care at that time, I think.
Mm.
And very clearly, every supermarket, at least in Bombay,
Mm.
was marked with a guideline sticker to go
Mm.
where the category was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how brand communicate to make sure that they aid the C.
Hmm.
Yeah. And because they have already covered their bases on trying to, make sure that their packs are designed well, etc., etc. So therefore, they aid the at least the walk-ins to the category, and then they leave it for the pack to do the rest.
Right.
Yeah. From a scan perspective, you will find that a lot of the time categories that have significant number of variants, yeah, they will number one in all their advertising while they show their variants. From time to time, they will pick up one hero variant and advertise about it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So what they're creating for you is a potential favorite amongst a lot, which will draw the customers to come out and check the range.
Right. They may not pick the actually advertised variant, but they'll check
Correct.
out the range with that
They'll
as the
check out
cue.
the range because they'll say, oh, okay, they have this also. Oh,
Hmm.
nice. Okay. And they might go and pick up their own favorite flavor. But the launch of a new flavor or the advertising of a new flavor gets them back to the category.
Right.
Yeah.
Got
That's
it.
the benefit of scan.
Got it.
Right.
Sounds good, Sudeep. I have a question here. We spoke about a purchase, intended planned purchase that
Yeah.
a shopper is walking into the store to pick out chips. Now, would the same things apply for an impulse category? Because we both worked at Cadbury, a lot of the Cadbury products are impulse purchases.
Yeah.
So, would the same principles apply there?
Yeah, I think it will. In fact, let me share an example with you. When I was relaunching eclairs as chocolates to change the packaging
Hmm.
completely to purple, the Cadbury India team realized that while they could change the name of the candy, the wrapper and the visual identity of it needed to be kept consistent with the previous one for the consumers to still recognize the candy as eclairs. Otherwise, with the name change, the wrapper change, and the removal of the name Cadbury,
Hmm.
the consumers would have been really circumspect.
Right. You'd be losing core brand assets.
Correct. But what occurred to us was that this was an opportunity to relook at the jar.
Hmm.
Because finally, what is visible at the point of buying is the jar and not the candy.
Right.
Now, eclair jars used to have wrappers which were purplish, light purple in color, violet of sorts.
Okay.
Now, there was an opportunity to make them the Cadbury color, the Pantone 2875C,
Hmm.
right? The Cadbury purple. Now, because of association of Cadbury purple with chocolatiness,
Mm-hmm.
the closer you go to them in your pack graphics,
Hmm.
the better preference you will be able to possibly deliver over other brands in term to by borrowing from your parent lineage of Cadbury and
Wow.
its association with lovely chocolate flavor.
You're letting go of a brand asset of eclairs, but you're leveraging the mother brand's asset to drive preference. Okay.
Correct. And what we were anyways letting go of was something which was not really, built and registered by consumers as something which is essential,
Mhm.
right? So we made the wrappers all purple. But where does shopper marketing come into it? Before launching this in the market, we conducted tests with the shoppers.
Okay.
Yeah. And we simulated a pawn shop in a particular space, made the shoppers wear glasses with trackable lenses
Yeah, you mentioned
that
this.
was
Yeah.
tracking their retina movement, right? Recording that retina movement. And therefore, now the consumers would walk into the store and they would first see the category, they would
Right.
scan. We would see whether the scan score of chocolates is going up or not because of this purple change.
Mhm.
Yeah. Whether the spot score is going on or not, up or not.
Right.
And whether the customer shows interest and whether it leads to selection or not. All of these were
Fantastic.
tested. And then we said, okay, this packaging is a winner. Let's go ahead with it.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is an impulse. It's a pawn shop.
Right.
So it is as basic as it gets.
Fantastic. I think that's a wonderful example. I think this 5S of see, scan, spot, show interest, and select is something that people should keep very, very strongly in mind. But this example then gives me a lead to make this a 3-part series and not 2, because we can go deeper into the shopper marketing, the 5S, and see how exactly it applies in GT and maybe even e-commerce in the next episode.
Yeah, sure we can. In fact, the whole purpose of recounting this experience as well as talking about all of this is to exhort the marketers to think about all of this also when they're designing their product or their offering and the packs that they're going to carry those packs to the market.
Absolutely. Because what I've seen working with a lot of the D2C founders who are now looking to go offline is that the packaging is not made for these 5Ss. Because it's sold online. You decide what you want to show. You decide the classy fine print on your packaging. None of that is visible in the offline stores. How does your brand stand up? For example, the height of the edge of the shelf in modern trade hides a significant portion of the lower end of the packaging. So these are little nuances you need to understand to figure out how you're even building your brand to go across channels and not just one. And this again takes me to my pet peeve of how there are no D2C brands in FMCG, but that's for another day.
Correct. Good.
Lovely. We'll pick it up in the next episode, Sudeep. Thank you.
Sure we will. Thanks, Sharan.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBcast.net.